So let's. I have a couple questions for you. Actually, does your mic work?
Yep.
Is it too hot?
No, it works.
Okay, bring it a little closer, maybe. My first question would be, when's silver gonna blow sky high, Andy? Grab your beer for this one.
Well, I have been talking a lot about, since September, I've been talking a lot about the deal that Russia struck with Saudi Arabia. This was the deal that, since 1974, the dollar has been backed by a military protection of the Saudi kingdom. We made an agreement with the Saudi kingdom. Hey, we'll protect you, we'll sell you arms, and you'll denominate oil in dollars globally. Almost 100% of all the oil sold world over is in dollars. And so dollars represent the foundation of every currency on the planet because you need dollars to buy oil as the world reserve currency. When we left Afghanistan rather unharmoniously, one thing that was really not noticed by the mainstream media, but I think it's the biggest news story that I've really maybe seen in 32 years as the owner of a precious metals company, and just underscores how poor our media really is. Saudi Arabia struck a joint military cooperation agreement with Russia. Now, it is our protection of the Saudi kingdom that gives the dollar its world reserve status, period. Nothing else. There's nothing behind it since Nixon closed the gold window in '71. So it is backed by the military and the protection of the Saudi kingdom, in essence. So when Russia struck this deal with the Saudi kingdom and then the day after did it with Nigeria, the two biggest OPEC producing countries in the world, it was really obvious to me that they're going to come out and say we're going to take other currencies for oil. When we pulled our Patriot missile battery out of Saudi Arabia, when we named them in the 9/11 report, it became even more obvious to me. This is their ace in the hole. Now, I don't know if any of you noticed, but the lead story in Zero Hedge today said what? Saudi Arabia is in negotiations with China to sell oil in yuan. It is the beginning of the end for the dollar as the world reserve currency. So the Fed is doing all they can to buy the back end of the bond market to keep interest rates low to make us all feel rich, right? Because our 401ks and our homes. But what happens when half of the world sells dollars? We have weaponized the dollar. We've weaponized the dollar in the respect that we, as the world reserve currency, everyone should be able to use it, not who we say can and cannot. And by kicking Russia out of the SWIFT system and pushing them into the open arms of the Chinese, who have created what's called CIPS, Cross Interbank Payment System. It's identical to the SWIFT. They also have the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which makes our COMEX look like a joke, as they've delivered 90 times the amount of metal that the COMEX has in the past few years because it's a cash and carry market. They also have the Chinese petro-yuan bond, so they buy oil from Iran and natural gas from Russia. They pay for it in a bond that is denominated in yuan that bang, switches immediately into gold and silver off of the Shanghai Gold Exchange. In terms of games, we're playing checkers, they're playing chess. The move that they just made today by saying we're going to, well, they haven't fully said they're going to do it, but they are. They're going to take oil from the Chinese or sell oil to the Chinese, and they will be paid in yuan, maybe the yuan bond. And it's the end of the dollar. So when that happens, it's a kind of deal where you wake up on a Monday morning to a new reality. It's not that, see, I look at gold and silver sitting on the ledge of the bathtub, and the water is the value of the dollar. It's the dollar. And you pull the plug on the dollar, and it's not gold and silver that go to the moon. It's the dollar in which we measure it against that gets its ass handed to it in a very, very big and painful way. The biggest problem to all of this, everyone talks about this great reset, right? I could write a story right now, from right where we are right now, where in a matter of a week the whole reset happens, and it happens when the whole world dumps dollars and the Fed can't do anything about it. And what happens to interest rates? When they go straight to the moon, just by natural forces of economics. And what is inversely correlated to a rise in interest rates? The three pillars of wealth in this country: stocks, bonds, and real estate. All three at all-time highs, inversely correlated to a rise in interest rates, which are, by the way, at the lowest level in human history. So there's nowhere to go but down for the value of these assets if interest rates rise. And I would say a moment like that, you wake up, we say be careful what you wish for. When you have $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $800 silver, or $3, $4, $5, $6,000 gold, whatever it is, it's going to suck. But I think it's coming, and I think we are naive to believe otherwise. So when does it happen? I think it's happening right now. It's happening when you see stories like this, and I think it's just the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately.
Look how smart this guy is, right? Just one note on that. Does anybody know who the big winner is when currencies collapse? It's the largest debtor. You know who the largest debtor in the world is? The United States of America. It's amazing.
But there's your great reset. I mean, when that happens, all of the wealth in this country is brought down to a common denominator. And there's a group out of Chicago that is called Ibbotson, and it's spelled like Ibbotson, Ibbotson. They were bought by Morningstar, and they wrote a report not too many years ago saying that because interest rates are where they are, there's only one asset class inversely correlated to the U.S. stock market, and that's precious metals. So I just want you all to know that when I recommend buying metals, it's not to get wealthy, it's because it's wealth, and it's outlived every world war and two of them, and German hyperinflation and the Great Depression and every pandemic, and it's still wealth. And when your great-great-great-grandchildren in the year 3000 are using it, long after the money in your wallet's hanging from a frame in the Smithsonian, it will be wealth. And that's what, and that's what Bix is talking about, holding it in your own possession. People in Canada didn't think it could happen. Look at what's happening in Russia. We decided that they shouldn't be part of the SWIFT system. We kick them out. And look what's happening. And if we, are naive enough to believe that something like that can't happen here, it's a mistake. So when you talk about cryptos that are backed by gold and silver, I would simply say who's the custodian and who's validating it. That's a big deal. When I was part of the, I'm friends with Rick Rule, and he asked me to do the Trade Winds program, which was a metal held at the Royal Canadian Mint. And it was, the veracity of it was denoted on a distributed ledger. But the more I got to understand it, it was just like my Brinks account. It's metal held at a depository, and someone is validating it on a distributed ledger. Someone stands behind it. So you have to know who's holding it, who's validating it, who makes sure it's really there. So I don't know what to say other than to say a lot of the people behind, like Andrew Maguire, he's a straight up guy. And so, David Morgan is behind Load. He's a straight up guy. But that only goes so far.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, they can still be straight up guys, but that doesn't mean they can stop nationalization or the guard running away with the metal. I have a couple questions for Andy that I have not figured out for the life of me. The U.S. Mint is required by law to create silver eagles in quantities to meet demand. That is a law written in our legal framework. They changed it a little bit, said the Treasury Secretary gets to decide, but they're clearly not doing what the law says. And we can bitch all we want, but they do what the hell they want. Why? My first question is, why are Silver Eagles premiums up above $10, which is like the biggest premium I've ever heard of for a fairly normal, it's one of the largest coins in circulation. Why? $10, $12 over spot. Does the mint charge that, or is it just that everybody wants them and the dealers have none?
So I'm one of only 24 U.S. Mint authorized resellers in the world. And the difference so that means that I was nominated by one of the 6 primary mint distributors. At one point, there's 6 primary distributors. They have the ability to nominate one reseller. And a long time ago when we started our Canadian storage program, I became very close with the head trader at Prudential Beige. Prudential Beige is no longer a primary distributor. They're out of the market. They were bought by Jefferies, and then Jefferies dropped it. But bottom line is that what that really means is that if I want to buy massive amounts of gold or silver, I can go directly to the U.S. Mint, and it has to be like $25 million or more. If not, I buy from one of the 6 primary distributors. So the primary distributors are companies like, let's call one A-Mark. They're a publicly traded company. They're one of the biggest distributors of metal in the entire world. Let's put yourselves in the position of a primary distributor. Primary distributor works with me and JM Bullion and APMEX and SD and all of the companies, and they provide the metal to all of the dealers like me. And they realize they're working with a model of inefficiency, all of these global mints. And not only that, you have, for the first time ever, these mints are being inundated by global demand, because it's not just North American demand, it's people all around the world realizing fiat currency is a bad thing. And people all around the world are realizing, well, if Trudeau can do that to them, maybe they'll do it to us. And people are in Russia, who they just eliminated their VAT tax on gold. They're realizing, well, if this can happen to our whole country, what does that mean? And so you have all of this demand, right? And it's like price inflation, all of this demand chasing a very small pool. But the problem is, I'll give you an example. I had just got into my warehouse 100,000 United Kingdom Britannia. Sounds like a lot. I bought them almost 12 weeks ago. Literally, almost 12 weeks ago. And I paid for all of them 12 weeks ago. And I had to hedge all of that 12 weeks ago. And I had to run logistics on that for 12 weeks. And then once it got into the States, we have to run trucking and insurance. But the point is, when I sell out of those coins that I paid for 3 months ago on a line of credit, I don't know how, it's into June before I'll get any more. So the distributors basically are saying, well, if I sell all of these coins to all of these companies like Miles Franklin and all the other companies, and I'm sold out, then I don't know when I'm getting any more. It may be May, maybe June, who knows? These mints are the model of inefficiency. They're using COVID and social distancing as rationale for not producing. They just shut down the Morgan and Peace Dollar program that the U.S. Mint did till 2023 because of social distancing and COVID protocols. So from the standpoint of the primary distributors, they want to know how they're going to keep the shelves stocked. And they're wondering, you know, if I sell out of this, does that mean I have nothing left to offer? I better jack up the premiums because the future is uncertain. I don't blame them for doing it. I will tell you that our industry, we don't make squat. I mean, our premiums are 1%, 1.5% if we're lucky. When you are selling metal, you're not making a ton of money. So these distributors, the primaries, are thinking, if I don't raise premiums, I don't know if I'll be able to restock the shelves until May or June, maybe later, and who knows in this crazy world. So that's why the premiums are the way that they are. And they're not just on Silver Eagles, which are nuts at over 10, 11, 12 bucks. If I sell them at 11 bucks, I'm cheaper than anyone in the country. But you're seeing it on everything. Britannia's at $5.50 over spot. Junk silver at $7 over spot. So basically what you're talking about is that the mechanism for pricing is very much broken, and the guys who are setting the price, they know that it's broken, and they're putting it up to a level that is more compensatory with where price should be.
So what you're hearing, if you watch the news, you'll see that silver's priced under $25. Everywhere else in the world where they actually sell the metal and physical, price is over $30. And you're sitting there looking at, how can this be? What broke and who's in charge of breaking it? That's when we get back to JP Morgan, the COMEX, futures and options, derivatives. That's why I think they can even go off the petrodollar and have every country abandon the dollar, because they control the derivatives on the dollar. It doesn't cost them anything to click a mouse and set the price of oil to minus $40. It just is a mouse click. That's the crazy world we ended up in somehow. Andy, what do you have in inventory? I'm just thinking about you guys right now. What do you have in inventory that people can buy right now that you can ship right away?
Kilo bars from Valcambi, Britannias from the United Kingdom, some Silver Eagles, some Silver Maples, not a lot. I mean, in almost 33 years of business, this is the most empty the shelves have been. Now, we're doing as much business in a month as we do in a week. We have the product, but it rotates out so fast. And what's different now is the uncertainty of when it comes. So, for example, I have kilo bars at two of my two of my fulfillment centers, one in North Dakota, one in Miami. And we sold out of the ones in North Dakota, and I asked my operations, so when do we get more? He says, it's, you're talking out into mid-May, into June before we were able to get more. So in order for me to purchase those bars, I would have to pay for it all up front now and hedge it for the next 60 days and hope that it comes in. So that's why premiums are rising. But what I have right now would be Kilo bars and Britannias, odds and ends, but that's going to be your best. No, you talk about junk silver. Bill
I used to buy all his junk. Every time he got junk, I'd call me, send me your junk. I love the name too. Junk. It's U.S. coins.
It used to be called junk because when I started, I was 19 years old when I started in this industry, 1989, and I used to buy it for under melt value and sell it to the public for just a little bit over, and that's why it was called junk. The dealers would sell it amongst themselves for under melt value. But Bill Holter, many of you might know who he is. He's a good buddy of mine, and he reps for us. He sold 180 bags of junk silver 2 weeks ago for a few $1 million, and I cleaned out everything that I had and everyone that I knew. I called everyone and bought everything they had, and you can't find it. This is emblematic of what it's going to be like when everyone starts to wake up. You just can't find it because no one wants to let go of it. This is why they say there's no bull market like a metals bull market, because no one wants to go back into fiat. Screw it, I'll hang on to it. I don't care what the price is. And they all realize that the price is bullshit, so they hang on to it, they don't sell it. They're not interested in profit. They would rather pass it on to their kids than sell it. So, I don't know, honest to God, Bix, I say all this, I say this. Sometimes I wonder, why do I do all these podcasts? Because I say this and people are like, he's just talking his book. But I'm really not talking my book. I mean, it's getting so hard to get so to give you an idea what it used to be like, to me, success in business centers around working with people like Bix, good people. Well, I've employed that into every avenue of my business, every avenue. And I know the good distributors to work with, and I became friends with all of them. That's the key to business. You sell yourself. You make a relationship. And they trusted me so much, they'd call me up and they'd say, Andy, listen, I'm going to send you 50,000 Silver Krugerrands. You just put them in your warehouse. I'd be like, well, Mike, I don't need them. He's like, don't worry about it. I'll send them to you, put them in your warehouse. If you need them, you got them. If not, we'll pay to ship it out. Just don't charge me storage for it. Okay, fine. So they would send, and I would have pallets full of metal from distributors all around the country sitting in my warehouse collecting dust until I needed them. Now, those days are gone. Now I have to buy stuff 90 days in advance and hedge it and run logistics. And if you're not a company with the ability to do these sophisticated forms of hedging and logistics balancing, then you're out in the cold. So there's 4, 5, 6 of us that are out there that are able to do this. Go to your local coin shop and go in there and see what they have. It'll be less than 1,000 ounces, maybe 2,000 ounces, whatever it is, because they're not able to get product because the big distributors will not sell to them unless they have the wherewithal to spend 7 figures, hedge it, and run all the logistics. Everyone else will be out of business before it's all said and done. So I think that there, thanks to people like you, people are getting it and waking up to just how important it is to buy this and not look at price as your determining factor. Price is what the cartel uses to manipulate perception. And when you see, like Bix was talking about on one of his videos yesterday, 5 million ounces of silver was delivered off of COMEX this month. Not the biggest month ever, as Bix said, it's true, but 5 million ounces. So who's got enough money to take possession of 5 million ounces on 1,000-ounce bars off of?
It was 50.
50?
50 million.
50 million?
Yeah.
Really?
This month on COMEX.
Really?
50. Yeah.
Well, there you go. 50 million, even bigger. Well, who's got that kind of money? The sovereign wealth funds, the family offices, I don't know, the others. This is the managed money group that came out of nowhere on the COMEX report, the others. They're draining COMEX. So they're using price as a tool of misdirection. We're all being misdirected. And read the book, The Art of War, and you'll see the term or the theme of misdirection is taught in every major business school in the United States. Bill Belichick uses it to formulate game strategy. It's taught at West Point. It's mandatory reading at CIA. Misdirection is real, and we're being misdirected by rhetoric and prices. The big money is taking 50 million ounces in 1 month off of COMEX, and over 300 million ounces last year off of COMEX. And so, I don't know. I think that
That's an amazing thing about Americans and everybody in the world. They only buy things that go up. It's like the opposite of what you're supposed to do. Buy low, sell high. If the price of silver was allowed to go, and it was when J.P. Morgan allowed it in 2011 to go from $20 to $50 and then slam it down, everybody and their mother was buying silver when it was moving up to $50. But when it's cheap, nobody wants to buy it. It's the insanity. It's like Theta. Nobody wanted to buy it when I was screaming, it's only 5 cents. And it started going up to $15. I want my Theta.
well, and it's just like, you know, it's the reality that I've lived forever. It's just crazy Bix when it's 5 cents, but he's a fucking genius when it's 10, you know.
Yeah, and then when it crashes, I'm the asshole.
Right.
I know. I do have one more question for Andy, and I got to give him a stumper because this is one that keeps me up at night for your business and all businesses that uses hedging. We saw the LME, London Metal Exchange, and their nickel problem. It was a very large player, supposedly had forward contracts of the real stuff they're going to get, but they had this huge, gigantic short position to manage it, and the prices ran away, and they needed margin increases. This crazy banker way to steal your money, increase your margins so that they get theirs before you get yours. J.P. Morgan had to jump in and save these guys because had they gone, it would have taken out everything. You know, bankers can only get so greedy. When they get too greedy, they lose. Are you worried about, because you do hedge, and I understand that's part of your business, are you worried about crazy margin increases if silver starts going over, $500, $600?
If that happens, you'd see premiums go to the moon to compensate for it. But so for people to understand why we hedge, if I have 1 million ounces, well, let's use a realistic number. If I have 200,000 ounces of silver in my warehouse, I can't just hope that the price goes up and that, if I do that, I'm just speculating, and you can't stay in business to speculate, especially in a market like this. So if I have 200,000 ounces in my warehouse, I sell 200,000 on paper, and they move exactly inverse of each other. If what I have in inventory goes up, it moves down on what I sold short on COMEX. If it goes down, what I sold short goes up. I'm market neutral. It's about transactions. You make money selling it, not speculating on it. And so we have to. If you don't hedge, you can never hold an inventory. You go out of business in one bad market event, you're out. So
and we've seen a lot of dealers who got on the wrong side, didn't hedge properly, and just got destroyed.
Yeah,
and
quick.
we're gone, and everybody who ordered from them,
That's
like the
Tulving.
Mulligan Mint, Tulving.
Tulving.
I used to buy from Tulving. I luckily didn't get caught up in that debacle.
Everyone used to say to me, "Why can't you compete with Tulving?" And I'm like, "Well, he buys from where I buy, and he's selling it for cheaper than I would ever sell it, and he's giving free shipping. He's losing money."
And one day he was gone, and
$50
everybody who had
million.
orders in gone.
Yeah. But not only that, if you had received metal or money for metal you sold within 90 days, or is it 6 months? It's one or the other of when he went out of business. You have to return that to bankruptcy, to the bankruptcy.
They claw back.
You get clawback, or that's in violation of bankruptcy law.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I'm concerned about it because we have a very big hedge book, and if it were to run away, it would affect everyone in the industry the same way for the most part, and you'd see premiums go parabolic to compensate for that added cost.
So the way to get around that is ask him what he's got in the inventory. Are you ready to ship? I'm ready to send the money. Make it happen quickly. Andy, anything else? By the way, we have QR codes right here with Andy Schectman's company, Miles Franklin. Obviously, he's an upstanding citizen, and he's done well for everybody on Road to Ruta who's bought with him is just tickled pink that they built that relationship, because it's important to have good relationships, especially in assets you invest in. I mean, you're putting this is your hard work, your wealth. You worked your whole life for this. You don't want to deal with some shady characters, and he's not so shady. Unless he doesn't shave in the morning. We see that every once in a while. So, Andy, anything else left to say to the Road to Ruta fans?
Hey, look, Bix, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate being here, being a part of what you're doing, You are, what you are to me is a breath of fresh air from everything else that I read and see, and everything that you've always talked about has resonated with me, and I appreciate being here. I appreciate working with your people. I never hear anything but great comments about you, and it's an honor. Honestly, it truly is, so thank you. As far as our commitment to all of you, you know, we've built a new website, and I've been saying this for a long time, but it's almost done. I can see I can see the finish line. It's done, basically. It's being tweaked. So within the next month, we'll hopefully roll that out where people will be able to buy online. But in the meantime, send us an email. We'll send you an updated inventory. We'll make sure that you get the best price in the country and personalized service. And we've never had a customer complaint, ever in 33 years. We'll make sure that all of you aren't the first, and certainly appreciate everyone's trust, yours especially. And like I said, it's just an honor to be here and be associated with what you're doing.
Everybody, round of applause for Andy Schectman.
Thank you.
He'll be here to drink with us all night. Questions for Andy?
Pardon me? My company's name is Miles Franklin. I don't, you know what? It's funny. No, I don't. My father's middle...
Take out your phone, baby. Right here. Scan the QR code. Paige can help you scan QR codes right over there. Yeah, it's on the website, and it's on my underwear tattooed.
Wow. The only downside to buying junk silver is you can't find it. No, I mean, junk silver offers the greatest utility.
Well, if we get into a barter situation,
Yep.
how do you have a kilo bar, how do you make change for that?
You don't.
Exactly.
Right.
Or a 1,000-ounce comics bar.
Yeah, you don't. You don't. If you look at the difference between an ounce and an ounce silver coin, and 14 dimes is almost exactly an ounce of silver. So you'd have 14 transactions versus one. But I've sold $1 million worth of junk silver before with a gun held to the client's head. He couldn't tell you how much silver's in a dime. So, but it is. It's the greatest form of utility in silver. Period. Yeah. So the only downside is that the premiums are as high as I've ever seen them ever in my career, ever.
When and if the COMEX crashes, how are we going to know the value of silver?
You won't, and nor will you be able to buy it because
It won't matter. It won't matter. You won't be able to buy it anywhere. So.
the dealers won't be able to hedge anything. So you'd have to pay for it, and then the dealer has to find it and sell it to you. But it's just extraordinary amount of risk. The amount of risk that the dealer, so, you know, as an example, using the Silver Eagles as an example, the risk that I have as a dealer that people don't quite understand is that right now, if you sell me Silver Eagles, I'm going to pay you at least $7 or $8 over the price of silver. So what if you sell me 10,000 Silver Eagles and I pay you $80,000 in premium over the price of the melt value? Because when I hedge it, I'm hedging the melt value, the 10,000 ounces. I can't hedge that premium. And what if tomorrow the U.S. Mint says, well, we've ramped up services and we're going to issue them from San Francisco also and Philadelphia, and we're going to pummel them out there, and the premiums collapse. I can't hedge that. So that's kind of what would happen with the spot price if there wasn't a vehicle to offset that risk. If that happens, you're all screwed. You're not going to get any. And that's why you talk about buying this as wealth, not as an investment, and putting it away as often as you can, looking at it as wealth, before it becomes obvious. It's obvious to all of you, but the people out there who figure it out 60 seconds too late will be shut out. That I can promise you, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to sing, so I should probably go.
Andy Schectman, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, I grew up in the USA. I was taught that speech was free.